welcome back. You are listening to Nate the Hate on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And with that, let me welcome in my co-host, Modern Vintage Gamer.
Hello, Nate. It's great to be here. It's been a long time since our last recording. Back in March, I think, was the last recording. A lot of people out there, Nate, a lot of people want to know what's going on with you. You are the man of the moment right now. You've been the man of the moment for the last few months. So tell the fine folks what's been going on with us. Why have we been absent for such a long time? And what are we talking about today? Because I'm excited to be back.
Really just came down to scheduling and stuff. Just being able to get together and being able to have a conversation about gaming. But a lot has happened since we last recorded. And as you'll recall, back in March, one of the things that we had discussed was a StarFox game coming out in 2026. And since our last episode, StarFox has been confirmed for Switch 2. It's coming out later this month, June 25th.
Yes.
And that's where I want to start today's episode, is giving our thoughts and impressions on this StarFox project, as it is a remake of StarFox 64, but with brand new visuals, a new epilogue, and ideally, we will also see some other new content, but none of that has been detailed just yet. So far, all we know is that we're getting a remake of StarFox 64, new visuals, new dialogue. And what are your thoughts on that game? What were your first impressions when you saw Fox McCloud appear on your screen?
I was very, very, very excited about StarFox. I will say, Nate, I was a little bit surprised, maybe, to say that it is just a remake of StarFox 64. But StarFox 64 is a legendary game. And I think if you just take that blueprint and remake that game on the Switch 2 with some really great visuals that I think I was a big fan of, you know, that's definitely a good way to get back into the StarFox universe. I think it's a bit of a safe gamble, if you will, because, again, StarFox 64 is already a known quantity. It is the most successful StarFox game that has released before this one, of course. And overall, I was very, very excited about it. When they showed it at the Direct, I was pretty hyped about it. I secured a pre-order pretty quickly, and I can't wait for later in June to get my hands on it. I'm quite excited. What about you? What did you think?
At first, I was definitely taken aback by the visual direction of the character models. I wasn't expecting a game with such realistic visuals for StarFox. But then once they showed the gameplay of the R-Wings flying into Corneria, the visuals sold me. The game was breathtaking. And I've said it elsewhere, and I'll say it here. I think the game is the best looking game on Switch 2 so far.
Could be.
I think when you look at those visuals and the lighting, the level of detail, everything, I think it's the best looking game on Switch 2. And it's also the perfect introductory title for anyone curious about StarFox, because some people, they're not familiar with StarFox. They maybe played with him in Super Smash Brothers, and they were then reintroduced to the character in the Mario Galaxy movie. But if you want to play a StarFox game, you would have had to go back over a decade to Star Fox Zero on the Wii U. And that was a title that not many people played. It was universally panned due to the gamepad controls.
Yeah.
So you might have to go back even further to find an individual who has played a mainline StarFox game that wasn't burdened by a control system. So you're going back to potentially Star Fox Assault or even Star Fox Adventure, and that's going back to the GameCube. And yes, you can play Star Fox Super NES or Star Fox 64 on NSO, but for a lot of people playing those retro games, they feel antiquated due to the control scheme or even the visuals. So if you're a younger gamer, I don't think necessarily playing the NSO version of Star Fox 64 does the game justice, because you have different expectations as to what you want from games in 2026 than what we were getting from games in 1998. Now, we did get Star Fox 64 on the 3DS, a fantastic version of the game, But again, that's well over a decade ago. So a lot of people, this is going to be their first foray into the franchise. And just by calling it StarFox, Nintendo is clearly treating this as a series reboot. This is going to be the starting point for the franchise moving forward. And the fact that we got that first look at James McCloud and the portrayal of Pigma and leading into Dr. Andros, you can see that this game is going to expand upon the lore that we're only slightly familiar with. So even though we are familiar with the stages of the game, they're fleshing out the character interactions with the mission debriefings. There's going to be a lot of story content here potentially that's new to everybody. And that's really exciting if you're a StarFox fan, because we don't know how deep they're going to go with this. And ideally, there is going to be additional new content with the game. And just like speculating here, I would love to see them allow us to play through the main game as James McCloud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would just add a little extra spice and a little more replayability. And as they detailed in that direct, you have the challenges to increase replay value. You have the multiplayer, with the online multiplayer with the character avatars that go with the game chat and stuff. There's a lot of value in this package. And I think the way they presented the game was extraordinarily strong. It did the game justice. And a lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of interest around the game. And when you check Amazon charts, and this doesn't mean much this far out, but it has ranked as the #1 bestseller for Switch 2 for the last several weeks. So there's definitely demand here. And it even sold out on Amazon at one point.
Yep.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this StarFox game tracks when it comes to sales later this month when it releases. And it has that potential to maybe eclipse the original sales of Star Fox 64 on Nintendo 64 and become the best-selling Star Fox game.
It's definitely poised to do that. I think there's a good chance it will. But I'm pretty hyped about it. Like, I'm tempering expectations because this is Star Fox, and they've fumbled Star Fox a little bit. You mentioned Star Fox Zero, but overall, from what we've seen so far, I think this game is going to be a good one, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I have to ask you, Nate, because people are going to want to know this, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So you did predict in the last episode back in March, I will say, that you said Star Fox would be announced in April, and that did not happen. It was only a few days later in the first week of May when it was announced. What was going through your mind, I guess, when April kind of clicked over and we kind of went into May? How were you feeling about it when obviously you were probably getting a lot of people, throwing hate at you at the time?
My primary thought was just, I know the project is real. I know we're getting a Star Fox game. And yes, the timing information ended up being inaccurate. It was off by just about a week. And, I owned that miss.
Yes,
unfortunately, the information was wrong. I owned the miss, and that's a lesson learned. Don't give a window of expectation for a game announcement because it's very fluid. It can change. And in this event, it did change. And I want to say Nintendo didn't react to the leak and say, oh, we're going to delay the announcement.
Right.
It's simply the marketing changed. That's all. The marketing timeline changed, and they held it until the first week of May. It happens, and, it's a hard lesson learned. So moving forward, I will adjust the way I approach things due to this lesson.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Nintendo. You humbled me. But overall, I remained confident. I knew the information was good about the project, and I just want to see the project get announced. And the project got announced, and a lot of people are excited for it, us being among those people. And I think at the end of the day, that's the important thing, is that the project was real. The project is coming out this summer. And it's something that everyone can look forward to. Everyone got to see, consume, digest, share impressions, share excitement over. And I think ultimately that's the important thing at the end of the day, is that as a community, we're getting this Star Fox game. And it's something that Nintendo fans have been waiting for a long time. And the game looks fantastic. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal release later this month and for 2026.
Yeah, agree. And very well said too. And you did come out and communicate on Twitter that, maybe it was a miss on your behalf, and going forward, you won't be so specific with timings, because timings do change. You're absolutely right. Like I've been involved where in game development, where I don't want to talk about a specific example or anything like that, but there's been situations where things are being set to go, and all of a sudden there's been a last minute pivot. I've seen it happen myself. So it's something that happens in the industry quite a bit. So yeah, I agree with you, and I think you handle it very well, all things considered. I personally don't know how you deal with it though.
Right, like when the announcement happened, I made a playful tweet where I had the StarFox 64 conversation in the dialogue where it says,
I do remember
about
that.
time you showed up, StarFox, and I added like people dismissed you as a fake rumor. Like I poke fun at the situation there. But beyond that, like, yeah, I don't take victory laps because I'm putting out the information that I put out there, having confidence that it is accurate, and the only victory lap is to see it come to fruition.
For sure.
It's not to go to Twitter and boast about it. There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
And I've always said that if you have to go to social media to boast that you were right about information you had confidence in, then what are you doing? You're just doing it to brag. No, there's no point of doing that. There's no point of, showing off or anything of that nature when something you said happens as you said, because you're putting it out there because you have confidence in what you're saying. So the reward at the end of the day is that it happens as you said, and that should be enough. So just seeing Star Fox get announced and seeing the excitement that the game generated, that's enough for me.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited, Nate. I haven't turned my Switch 2 on in a while. I'm not going to lie.
That's true. But, I turned the Switch 2 on very recently, and yours just said offline. So you haven't used it in at least 2 weeks.
It's been longer than that, I feel. I've been playing Forza Horizon 6 a lot, as you know, and 007, both great games. But I will be putting a lot of hours into StarFox 6. I was going to say 64. StarFox on the Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll be playing multiplayer. And I will be on my game chat with the webcam turned on.
That's right. You did get a webcam back at launch, so you're going to be at the bottom of the screen screaming as Slippy Toad.
I'm going to be Falco.
Shot down.
You'll be Slippy. I'll be Falco.
Whoa, I'm not being Slippy. I got to be, James McLeod at least. I'm leading that squad to victory. Maybe I'll be Star Wolf, depending what side I'm on.
I can't wait. I'm excited. I was when you announced it, or when you mentioned it back in March, I was hyped then, and I'm still hyped about this game. This could be one of my games of the year. We'll just see how it all turns out. But I'm tempering expectations, but I think it's going to be a good game.
I think based on everything that we know to this point, in terms of the new content, with the challenges, with the medals, the easy, normal, expert difficulties, there's going to be enough in this package that I'm going to come back to the game time and time again. I'm going to continue to replay the game. I'm going to want to perfect those medals and those challenges. I'm going to want to 100% those. Then you factor in the multiplayer. A lot of hours ahead for me with Star Fox.
Same.
And as you said, it has that potential of being a personal game of the year in 2026. But there's a lot of great games still to come this year. We've already had a few great games released early this year with Resident Evil Requiem, Forza Horizon 6, as you mentioned.
Yep.
And a game I personally liked, but I know you didn't. Pragmata.
I thought it was fine. Let's put it that way. I didn't like it as much as everyone said it. Everyone else really enjoyed that game, I think, more than I did. I thought it was okay.
I'm going to pose this question to you before we move to the next topic. What game would you say you enjoyed more, Pragmata or 007 First Light?
This is a great question, Nate, because I was going to discuss this with you just the other day after I beat 007. And I'm going to say that I think, and this is not recency bias, I think I enjoyed 007 more than Pragmata. And the reason why is because I do have some issues with 007 as a game. I think that the combat system needs to be fleshed out more. The driving system is basically non-existent. It's very Call of Duty-like in that regard. There's a lot of sections in that game where it just kind of plays itself almost. But I will say that the last couple of missions in 007 kind of picked up a lot. Like I was feeling some Uncharted vibes towards the end of that game, which made me very, very happy. Now, the first half of 007 was a little all over the place for me. And I think if we left it, if you told me just play the first half of 007 and the first half of Pragmata, which one do you prefer? I probably would have said Pragmata. But 007 really picked up in the back half for me. And I think it's a better game overall. Your thoughts on that? Have you beaten both of them? I know you've beaten Pragmata. Have you beaten 007?
I have finished Pragmata. I haven't finished 007 yet, but right now Pragmata is clearing it handedly.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that, but I would say clear 007. Give the last couple of missions a go and tell me how you feel about it, because for me, it picked up in the back half. Last couple of missions were pretty good, and it just kind of helped it a lot. And I think maybe that's why the game reviewed well in the end. And a lot of reviewers kind of compared it to an Uncharted type game, because initially when you play it, you don't really feel like it's an Uncharted game, right? Like you feel like this is almost like a Hitman game with a Bond coat of paint all over it almost. But the more you progress through that game, the more Uncharted it feels like. And I definitely, I think I liked the game more than I did, the first 10 hours or so in. The last 5 hours, 5 or 6 hours were really, really good for me.
See, I could say a controversial thing around Pragmata, but I think I'm going to withhold.
Okay. Well, I've put my cards on the table, so...
You did. All right. Here's my controversial take, though I think people will agree. I enjoyed Pragmata more than Resident Evil 9.
Oh, yeah, I can't see that, honestly. I thought Requiem is one of the best games of this year, and I still believe that it is in the conversation for one of the best games of the year.
It is. Requiem is fantastic, but I do think Requiem has pacing issues, especially with Leon.
Yep.
Especially when you get to Raccoon City, I think the game has pacing issues at that point. And overall, I think I enjoyed the narrative, pacing, and just story of Pragmata more than I did Requiem. And if I had to put the two side by side, I mean, it's close. Mm-hmm. It's not as though Pragmata clears it or anything. They basically stand shoulder to shoulder. And I think for me, I'd give Pragmata the edge. But I think when we get towards the end of the year and it comes time for Game of the Year nominees, I think most outlets would give the nod to Requiem over Pragmata.
Yeah.
But for me, I think Pragmata is the best game I've played in 2026.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I kind of wish it connected with me in that way, because I really wanted it to. And it's not, and I'll be very clear with you. It's not, it has nothing to do with the story. I thought the story was actually quite good. In fact, the story was what kept me playing the game, because I wanted to see where it ended. And the ending of the game I thought was really cool, right? Like I really liked the whole story arc with Hugh and with Diana, right? Like I thought that whole aspect of the game was really interesting, and I wanted to keep playing to see where that story would take me. My issue with Pragmata, Nate, was honestly, I just didn't like the gameplay loop. I thought it was just kind of tedious. Even if you get the various auto hacking mods and stuff like that, I just felt like the hacking thing just got in the way too many times, and it just kind of got annoying after a while. It's like, okay, I'm in this small closed area. They're going to start dropping enemies from the sky, and these robots are going to start spawning. Now I have to take them out. Okay, now I have to start hacking them one at a time. It just kind of got a bit dull for me. I just felt like the gameplay loop was just too repetitive, and yeah, I didn't think the bosses were that interesting either. I feel like the bosses you could knock over pretty easily. In fact, I don't think I died once to any of the bosses in the game. So other than the story that I thought was really good, I didn't think the gameplay loop was particularly interesting.
Yeah, the combat was definitely kind of that unique selling point for Pragmata. And if it clicked with you, that's what propelled you forward. If it didn't click with you, it definitely was turning off individuals. So that was definitely Pragmata's hook. And the game relied heavily on how the player received that puzzle element of combat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where anyone's opinion on Pragmata, I think, does come down to that one part. And people don't like it. I mean, they're justified in that displeasure, because I can see where it could become tedious as you play, and it just doesn't sink its talons into you and become enticing, because it is very frequent. And even with the upgrades and different chips you can get to do damage to enemies and such, it still is prevalent. You're doing it every time you're engaging in combat. And if it just becomes tiresome, it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Have to do. Okay, unlock, shoot. But yeah, Pragmata just really resonated with me. And I was kind of sad when I got to the end and realized my time was over.
Yeah, it's a good game, and I mean, it's not particularly big, and it's priced very well. So I think Capcom did all the right things with this game. I don't think they could have really offered anything else. It's really, like you said, it's just a matter of, does this game connect with you or does it not? And I think it did for the most part for most people, and that's why it was received well and it sold well. Look, I'm happy that Capcom took a chance on this game. It's always good to see new IP out there, right? So hopefully we'll see more of the franchise, but if they do come up with a sequel to the game, I'd like to see a more fleshed out combat system. I think it would be beneficial.
Well, we'll see if StarFox can dethrone Pragmata for me, and if it can dethrone Resident Evil Requiem for you as personal game of the year. We will find out in a few weeks. But something that is more pertinent and more immediate, and something that everyone is actually here to listen to this episode for, is when is the first General Direct of 2026? We are in the month of June, and expectations are there will be a Direct in the near future. Do these claims have merit? When will Nintendo begin to discuss their 2026 plans with us after StarFox and Rhythm Heaven and Splatoon Raiders? What does the rest of 2026 look like from Nintendo? And we'll be getting that answer very soon, as from what I have heard, the Nintendo Direct will take place next week, the second week of June.
And just to be clear, that is the week of the 8th.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So very near, we will have that Nintendo Direct. And as we talked about back in March, Nintendo has a lot of games still to come this year. We still have to get a release date for Fire Emblem Fortune Weave. We have to find out what's happening with Duskblood. We have to find out about that Ocarina of Time remake. Get a first look at it, see the ambition and scope of the project, and see what third parties are up to for the Switch 2, because third-party support has definitely been ramping up over the last few months. Square Enix has just brought Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to the platform. Capcom, as we mentioned, brought Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata. More games will definitely be coming from them to Switch 2 this year. We have to see, what does Konami bring to Switch 2? Where is Elden Ring from Bandai Namco?
Where is Elden Ring?
I mean, that's a great question. And I mean, we had a lot of games also leak from the Korean rating boards and the ESRB that have not officially been announced for the Switch 2, like going back to March, Devil May Cry 5.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of games that need to be communicated for Switch 2 from third parties. And with this Nintendo Direct coming next week, will this be the venue and platform for these announcements to take place? There's a lot of rumored games that still need to be announced, like going back to our March episode of games we discussed from both third party and first party. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a June Direct? Or will Nintendo hold some of these announcements for maybe a Direct later this year? Will 3D Mario show up at this Direct, or will that be something that Nintendo withholds from 2026? Now, we're not going to give any Direct predictions now. That's something we will hold. But right now, what are your thoughts as to what Nintendo could bring to this first Direct or general Direct for 2026? Like, do you have high expectations, or right now are you kind of more grounded and unsure what Nintendo would bring right now?
Well, I think the easiest answer is to say they're going to bring everything. But I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, right? I think it may be a little bit more of a grounded Direct. And I like to think that, right? And then if something big happens, then I'm surprised, right? Like, that would be a good thing. But I think generally speaking, Nintendo is really just going to let us know what's happening for the remainder of this year and part of next year. So I think this is going to be a business Direct, as far as they're just going to just get through the slate of what they have. And, Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, I would expect, is going to show up. We're not doing predictions, so I don't want to, just roll off a list of games or anything until we get closer to time. But I think there's going to be some surprises littered with a lot of things that just need to get dates on them, and they'll call it good. I don't know, Nate. I'm kind of tempering expectations on this one because I feel like a lot of people are just going in thinking, well, they haven't done a Direct in a long time. I believe the last one was September last year. Is that right? September?
Yes. Yep.
So I think a lot of people's expectations are, well, they haven't done one since September, so this is going to be stacked, with all sorts of stuff, right? But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's going to be some big announcements and a larger third-party presence as well. I think, like you said, third parties are definitely going to show up. But we are going to see the Nintendo first-party announcements start to drop, the ones that we're not sure, we haven't heard dates on yet. Maybe a surprise or two gets thrown in as well. But it's hard to imagine there's anything beyond that at this point. I think anything that is 2027 probably isn't going to be in this Direct other than maybe a tease or some kind. So I that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a June Direct. And we know Nintendo likes to hold a Direct around September pretty annually. So it all depends on really how they want to approach this Direct that is going, that basically is starting the Switch's second year.
Yeah.
And we had the earnings briefing very recently, and we know Nintendo has to or will be raising the Switch 2 price later this year. So I could see where some would argue that Nintendo has to have a big Direct where they're selling you the system before they're increasing that price. But at the same time, they have to sell you the system at that new $500 baseline price.
Right.
And how do you do that with exciting games, not just coming this year, but also coming in the future? But considering the price doesn't go up in Western countries until September, you could make the argument of, well, Nintendo could wait till that September Direct to begin to outline a little more of that 2027 lineup and future games that you can look at and say, okay, the system costs $500, but man, I have this and this to look forward to next year. And we have such and such coming out this year still. I'm going to pick up the system. And it's just a question of, do you hold that for September or do you bring some of those announcements forward to June Now, I don't think Nintendo is a very reactive company. I don't think they sat there and said, oh no, we have to raise the price of the Switch 2. Now we have to stack our June Direct. I think plans for the June Direct were already in motion months ago. Nintendo already knew that they were going to have to raise the price on the Switch 2 months ago. It's not a decision they just made back in May, just ahead of the investors briefing. This is something they knew of. They know what memory costs are for them. They knew they had to do something. And just due to the economic landscape, they know what they have to do. So going into this Direct, there's definitely going to be a lot of expectation and anticipation because, as you said, it's the first general Direct since last September. And Nintendo's been very quiet, very conservative in their communication through 2026 to this point. As we saw at StarFox, Nintendo went to Twitter and Nintendo Today and announced that they were going to show a StarFox Direct 15 minutes after putting out the announcement on Twitter or on YouTube. They've never done anything like that before outside of, if you want to say, the Switch and Switch 2 reveal, where they just kind of, boom, here it is. So now the way Nintendo is communicating things, it's different than previous. Rhythm Heaven and Splatoon Raiders were all dated via social media. They weren't held for a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
But games like Fire Emblem remain undated and seems as though they're being held for a Nintendo Direct. Maybe because the game needs a little more information and they want to do it in that type of platform instead. But Nintendo's approach to how they are communicating with fans has definitely evolved and changed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this first Nintendo Direct really goes for them in 2026. See how they communicate. See how they outline the games to come, not just in 2026, but are we going to get that tease and, I guess, hint of what's to come in 2027? But again, we'll give our predictions closer to the Direct itself. But I'm definitely looking forward to the Direct because I think there's a lot of great potential, not just from Nintendo, but third-party partners as well. And that leads me into the final topic of the episode. I want to do a quick recap of our thoughts on Switch 2's first year. Because leading up to the launch last year, we had a discussion that we really didn't have that much excitement going towards the Switch 2 launch. We saw Mario Kart. At the time, Donkey Kong Bonanza was still an unknown quantity. We saw the trailers, sort of some preview impressions, but we weren't sure about the game. Now that it's a full 12 months since the Switch 2 has launched, what are your thoughts on the Switch 2 in its first year?
Well, I think in general, it's been a pretty good year, all things considered, for the Switch 2, especially facing a lot of turbulence, a lot of headwinds with regards to the current industry that we are in, as well as the current economic situation that we're in. Nintendo's probably done the best they could with the Switch 2. They've tried to not increase the price, but obviously, they've had to do that, but that's going to happen later this year. So in general, it's been probably about as good as it could have been. Now, how I feel about the Switch 2, Nate, look, I think the hardware itself is very good. I'm very happy with the system as far as the specifications and its performance. It's definitely surprised me in some ways, especially around things like backward compatibility, which ended up being a lot better than initially thought it would be, as far as the way that it can boost games and make games look better. And Nintendo has listened to feedback and provided the dock mode profiles for backward compatible games and stuff like that. So that's been a breath of fresh air, being able to basically go back and play almost the entire library of Switch 1 games on your Switch 2. I think from a first-party perspective, the games have been okay. Mario Kart was a good game out of the gate. You and I played it for quite a bit. Donkey Kong Bonanza, a very good game. But, for me, Nate, honestly, apart from those two games, I haven't really played any other first-party Nintendo games. And that's not me, disrespecting any of the other games. It's really just, I'm not really interested in playing Tamagotchi Live. I'm not interested in playing Pacopia. Those are games that are not for me. Yoshi's Woolly Book. What's it called? Yoshi's Mysterious Book. That game is not really interesting to me either. So, if they did a Woolly World game, then maybe I would have actually taken a look. But a lot of the games aren't really geared to my tastes in video games, what I like. Now, I'm not saying that they need to be, but it's probably one of the reasons why I haven't really been playing my Switch 2 very much lately. And going to the third-party side of the house, the third-party stuff is really good to see. I'm so happy that we are seeing games like Resident Evil Requiem show up day and date, Pragmata, show up. Although was that day and date, or was that delayed by a couple of weeks? Either way,
it was day and date.
It was day and date. Okay, we've got Call of Duty that was announced. These are all fantastic announcements that cannot be overstated. How great it is to see these games on a Switch 2 platform. Indiana Jones just came out, which is, from all accounts, a very good port as well. The problem is, I'm never going to play these games on a Switch 2. And it's as simple as that. I'm not going to play Resident Evil Requiem on a Switch 2, other than as a passing curiosity to see how it looks. But it's not going to be my main system of choice. And that's just how I feel, right? Like a lot of other people, they don't have, an Xbox or a PS5 as their other game console. All they have is a Switch 2. And if that's what you have, then you're going to have a great experience with those games. And you should be very happy to be involved and be invested into that ecosystem, because Nintendo is finally giving you those experiences, finally bringing those games, to the Switch 2, which is fantastic. But how I feel about the Switch 2, it's really, I'm kind of just waiting for the next game. And for me, right now, the next game is StarFox. And beyond that, hopefully we'll get some announcements at this Direct, as mentioned. But for me, it's really just, I'm playing it very occasionally. It's definitely my secondary game system right now. And I don't want it to be, because the Switch for me was a system I played a lot more of. But look, overall, maybe it's just a me thing at this point. Maybe I'm just kind of just talking about my experiences more than anything else. Overall, I think Nintendo should be very satisfied with the Switch 2. The way that the first year of the launch has gone. It hasn't reached those highs of Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, which it desperately, missed. But there are rumors, obviously, of a 3D Mario game coming. There's an Ocarina of Time remake coming. We may get to see that in the second year. And if that's all it takes, if Nintendo needed the first year just to kind of get their feet off the ground with the system, launch the system, get it out there, and now that it's there, start to really kind of bring us some big heavy hitter games. And there's no real harm in that, I guess. But overall, year one has been pretty good, but for me, it hasn't really hit the same heights as the Switch one, I think, is the best way to summarize it.
I would say I am in agreement with you that it didn't hit the highs that the Switch 1 had in its first 12 months. When you look at the Switch 1's first 12 months, you had Breath of the Wild, ARMS,
Yep,
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Mario Odyssey, Mario and Rabbids.
Mm-hmm.
You had just a phenomenal software library in those first 12 months on the Switch. And when you look at the Switch 2, I feel as though the Switch 2's opening 12 months was more so about laying the foundation of what's to come. Mario Kart is a brilliant launch game. It's casual friendly, something that families can enjoy. It utilized the system very well. But I don't think Mario Kart has really seen its full potential realized yet either. I think that is a product that is just ripe for future content. And eventually one day it will get that DLC or an expansion that really takes advantage of that world setting. Then you had the next big release in the form of Donkey Kong Bonanza. And Donkey Kong Bonanza is a fantastic game in its own right. it didn't resonate with me quite as strongly as it did for many others. I think the game it didn't live up to its potential. I want to see the game really utilize the elements a little more in terms of platform building and those types of directions. I think it would have been really interesting if the game required you to use mud or gold and mix it with the water or ice to create platforms to solve puzzles instead of just kind of smashing and finding progress through that means. But I think the foundation for a potential sequel is definitely there with Bonanza, and I'd like to see them expand on the promise with a sequel down the line. But then we got into some of the other games coming out. You had Metroid Prime 4, which was just a disappointment after such a lengthy wait. It was such a disappointment you don't even recall playing it.
I know. I didn't like Metroid Prime 4.
And I mean, that was a game people were definitely looking forward to last year. As you got closer to the holiday, people were like, oh, I'm going to get Metroid Prime 4. And the game came and it went. It wasn't the Metroid game people had been waiting for all that time. And this year you have the cozy games. Yep. And there's nothing wrong with the cozy games. They're selling exceptionally well. They're just not games that cater to me personally. So right now that foundation for the Switch 2 is set. But a lot of the heavy lifting, I think, is coming from third-party partners. As you mentioned, like Capcom having day-and-date releases with Requiem and Pragmata, having Square Enix bring Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth to the platform, Bethesda bringing Indiana Jones. All of these titles, they're starting to cultivate a very strong software library. And even if the Switch 2 isn't going to be your primary platform of play, one has to recognize the support the system is getting from all of these companies. And I think coming into year 2, it's going to explode. Mm-hmm. We're going to see stronger support from these third-party partners. We're going to see more day-and-date releases from these companies, but we're also going to see Nintendo really blossom with their own releases. And I think right now we're feeling that momentum. We're coming into StarFox at the end of the month. Immediately after StarFox, you have Splatoon Raiders. Then you could have Fire Emblem, Fortune's Weave soon after. Then you can have Duskblood, Ocarina of Time Remake, other Switch 2 surprises of Nintendo's own making that haven't been announced yet. And now combine that with some of the Switch 1 releases like Rhythm Heaven. And you're getting a release 1, if not 2 a month. And that's a good release cadence. It's a good flow. It's momentum. And then once you mix in some of those third-party support as well, it's just a cascade of games hitting hard and fast. And that's where the Switch 2 is on the precipice of entering. It's about to hit that dash. And it's a dash they didn't quite get in the first 12 months.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think with the Nintendo Direct next week, that dash is really going to be, you got boost power. Nintendo's going to be hitting that B button.
Whoa.
Switch 2, it's not an F-Zero tease.
Whoa.
No, stop it. But Nintendo's going to hit that B button and it's going to do boom. Like, okay, that price increase, not to say it's trivial, it's still a very expensive system. But you might be able to justify it to yourself a little more if you have that disposable income, because you're seeing these releases come from Nintendo and third party. You're seeing just a steady flow of releases. And it's okay, like the system's hitting. And that's what Nintendo really needs to do coming into the second year, especially with the economic landscape of rising cost. They need to be able to sell the system. They need to be able to make it an attractive environment, an ecosystem for the consumer. And that's what makes the Direct next week so enticing, is to see how Nintendo approaches it. Because right now it feels as though the Switch 2 is really just about to start things.
Yeah.
The prior 12 months, they were just a prologue.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting into the meat and substance of the novel that is Switch 2.
Yeah.
Now things are going to get interesting.
It definitely feels like it. And I think I think you're right. I think year 2 is going to be where things really ramp up, as you say. So hopefully this direct next week is a big one.
We'll give our predictions soon. And, either we're going to be overly ambitious like we were with the partner direct. We were very ambitious with that, and it didn't come anywhere close to our expectations. It was a letdown compared to our expectations. But I think it's going to be a fun episode to record when the time comes. But we do have an episode before the Nintendo Direct predictions episode. And YouTube members will be able to submit questions for our next episode, which is going to be Xbox Showcase predictions. So in the next couple of days, you will be able to submit questions. If you are a YouTube member to that episode, you can also submit questions via the Streamlab link in the description below. Donate any dollar amount, ask a question. We will answer it at the end of the upcoming episode. And with that, let us go into the Streamlabs questions for this episode. Our first question comes from Anon, who donated $5, and they ask, "Hey Nate, with Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave coming out, do you know what happened to the Fire Emblem 4 remake on Switch 1? Did it get canceled or put on ice until after Fortune Weave for a Switch 2 release? Any details on the type of remake it was? And are there other Fire Emblem projects coming?" I unfortunately don't have any update as to the current status of Fire Emblem 4 Remake. I don't know what the plan is with the title. I just hold hope that one day it will find itself out. Then had a question from Marcus Trevelyan, who donated $3.59, and they write, "In your own opinion, what do you think the timing will be for Nintendo adding a Wii collection to NSO on Switch 2? And with that, do you think that classic Wii games like Play, Fit, Music, Sports, and Sports Resort will return in this way?"
I think Wii is definitely attainable on NSO. It's not really that much as more in terms of power over GameCube, and GameCube's already running and it's running well. So it's really just a matter of what games would end up on NSO that were on Wii, and whether the controls could be mapped appropriately across so it would be a seamless experience. I think the biggest issue with Wii games is definitely the controls, which can be, obviously figured out. It's not blocking them in any capacity, but I think Wii is definitely a possibility at some point. Probably not for a while. I think it's something that they would, have up their sleeve maybe midway through the Switch 2's life. Maybe they unveil it, but it could definitely happen.
I think Wii is it's a matter of time. It's more a question of when than anything. I think this year would be a little too soon to introduce Wii to the NSO because you just added GameCube last year, and
yeah,
the GameCube roadmap, you still haven't fully released the games that you detailed a year ago. So I think it would be premature to bring Wii to NSO at this time. I think next year it would be a better idea to bring it over. And, again, with the economic landscape happening, maybe introducing Wii to NSO, you could raise the price of NSO, and that could justify a price increase instead of having to raise price on hardware. So you can, disguise it through alternative means. But I think, Wii is just a matter of time. But I think we're at least a year out before we see Wii join NSO. Then had a $7 donation from Way Leak. "Hi, Mr. Nate and MVG. There have been rumors that the female protagonist of Persona 3 will eventually be added to Reload. If she were to come back, do you think it would be in the form of DLC expansion or a re-release? Have you heard anything? Thank you." I have not heard anything, but I would imagine if she were to come back, it would be in the form of a DLC release. I don't think they would do a completely new re-release of Persona 3 Reload. Then had a $10 donation from SPH950. "Greetings. Are there any whispers or hints of Metroid Prime Trilogy coming to Switch? Given the demand of the beloved Prime 2 and 3 games to make their way to the Switch, I can't imagine Nintendo passing this by.
I'm going to put it out into the universe and say, yes, I want it. How about that?
I will accept that. I kind of think if we are to see 2 or 3 come to Switch or even Switch 2 at this point, I think would be via NSO.
Yeah, I don't care how we get them.
Yeah, which would require the Wii NSO app. But I think that's the path they would go at this point. Then had a $1 donation from Mirage. Years ago, Bandai Namco were hiring for a Nintendo action game remaster, and then later canceled the project for them. If those were the same game, could it have been StarFox Assault? Do you think you'd be able to dig up any info into this? I can try to dig up info into it and see if I can unearth anything relating to that project. I would hope it wouldn't be StarFox Assault, because I think that game would be better suited as a full remake from the ground up. The game had really bad controls, and I think Bandai Namco's talents could be better used elsewhere than to go to a StarFox Assault remake or remaster. But I'll see if I can unearth any information pertaining to that canceled project. Then had a follow-up $1 donation from Mirage. Do you think Nintendo considers these realistic StarFox character designs the default going forward? Personally, I found it jarring after seeing the 3D and anime styles in the Mario Galaxy movie. I'm hoping for a design that meets somewhere in the middle. I think rebooting the franchise as they are with the StarFox title and using these character designs I think that kind of projects that this is the design that they want these characters to portray in any future projects. Because if you go to a different type of art style with a future StarFox game, you kind of start to create a bit of murkiness as to the identity of the franchise. So I think this is the direction Nintendo wants these characters to be portrayed as, and any future StarFox game would also use these designs, maybe not one-to-one, but the general aesthetic would be the same.
I agree. If we see avatars show up with these designs, then it's a lock at that point.
Then had a $1 donation from Liam Warner. Do you think there is truth to you being the reason State of Play was announced so early, or StarFox Direct so late to make you seem incredible or to get ahead of you? Also, have you heard anything about Fire Emblem 4 Remake or Planet Robobot? No, I don't. I think the State of Play was announced when it was because Sony wanted to generate buzz and hype around their brand. So they announced it 2 weeks early. As you see, they have it being played in theaters. They have a special tasting menu at these theaters as well. All the menu items are Wolverine themed. So I think it was just a matter of they wanted to generate a lot of buzz. StarFox was not announced any later than planned. My information on timing was simply wrong. And no, I have not heard anything new about the Fire Emblem 4 Remake or Planet Robobot. I still hold hope that those projects will one day see a reveal and light of day. Then our final Streamlabs question comes from Lewis, who donated $5. They write, "Hey Nate, hope you're doing great. Would you happen to know if there's a new Paper Mario in the works? Also, do you think Nintendo is done with Wii U ports and remasters? I think there's some great first-party games still there that would do decent on Switch." I have not heard anything about a new Paper Mario game, but I'm sure there's one in the works at some point. These are pretty routine releases from Nintendo and Intelligent Systems, and I believe it's been, 2 years since Paper Mario Thousand Year Door released on Switch. So maybe in the next year or two, we'll get a brand new Paper Mario game, because that's usually the schedule that these games release on. As for any further Wii U ports or remasters, I haven't heard of any, but I would love to see Yoshi's Woolly World come over to Switch or Switch 2. And
I want Zack and Wiki.
That's not a Wii U port.
Oh, it's a Wii port, but I want Zack and Wiki.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic Wii game. I'm trying to think outside of Yoshi's Woolly World, what else is there on the Wii U that is really worth remastering or porting at this stage?
Devil's Third.
Why
The
would
goat.
you say that? The goat.
Zombie U. Oh, we already got Zombie U, didn't we, on the Switch? Did we get Zombie U?
No, they brought it to Xbox One and PS4.
Oh, that's right.
I would take Zombie on.
Yeah, I'd
Switch
take
and Switch
Zombie.
too.
Yoshi's
that.
Woolly World, I'd take. Not much else though. A lot of it's already been done, so which is good.
Yeah, I can't really think of any outliers that haven't been touched from Nintendo's own output. I mean, I guess you could do the Kirby game that was on Wii U that you had to draw.
Yeah,
What was
you could
that?
do that.
Canvas. I forget the name of it. I'm going to confuse it with the DS game. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I think Yoshi's Woolly World is really the only title that I would like to see become a reality at this point.
Yeah, same. That'd be a good one to have.
Make it happen, Nintendo. Let that be the ending announcement at the upcoming Direct. Yoshi's Woolly World for Switch. And everyone will say, what the hell was that? But that is the final Streamlabs question for this episode. If you'd like to support the channel, we have a Streamlabs link in the description below. Donate any dollar amount. Ask a question. We will answer it at the end of the episode. Or you can become a YouTube channel member, and you will be given advance notice to future episodes, so you can submit a question pertinent to the episode topic. And our next episode will be available in the coming days, which will pertain to the Xbox Showcase. And we'll give our predictions with a guest and share our thoughts on what Xbox could have in store for their showcase, not just from their own first-party partners, but also third-party partners. And we will then have a Nintendo Direct predictions episode ahead of next week's Nintendo Direct. But with that, let me thank MVG for joining me, as always.
Always a pleasure, Nate. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure chatting with you. And let us know your thoughts in the comment section below on the Switch's first year in terms of software releases, hardware, your thoughts in general, and what you expect to see from the Nintendo Direct next week. But until next time, continue to embrace the hate.
Dissecting all the lies. Make the hate rocket hard. MVG dropping on its bombs. Best podcast sitting strong, guiding us where we belong. Through the pixels and the codes, breaking down what future holds. Nate and MVG showing us the gaming goals.